You know, I get questions all the time about having my own authority and things that people want as far as information. So I guess the most important piece of information is, do you really need your own authority? Let's talk about it. Coming up on Riding with Kev. What is going on, you guys? To the new subscribers, and there's quite a few of you, welcome in. Usual suspects, welcome back. So I promise here shortly we're going to get back to the normal videos. We're actually, as you can tell, we're in the truck. We're out on the road making the first run with the new truck, and we're going to talk about that. But I have all these ideas in my head for videos, and this video is one that's been in the making for a couple of months. I just had never taken the time to actually make it. So we're going to talk about my opinion, not even my opinion, some information to help you decide if you even really need your own authority. And the first thing I want to preface this with is this is an opinion piece. I've been driving for 5.5 years. I've been a company driver, been a lease driver, been a lease purchase driver. I've leased on, and now I have my own authority. And while 5.5 years ain't that much, it is information. It's information that you can use. You can throw it in the garbage, you can take it. Hopefully it helps somebody. So we're going to talk about, do you really need it? And the reason this came was I was talking to a subscriber via email, and he was talking about getting his own authority. And when it comes to getting your own authority, it all comes down to one question, in my opinion. And that is,
what do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
that is what is the most important, in my opinion. Again, if I say something wrong way or use wrong terminology you don't agree with, I'm just talking, I'm giving information. So take it for what you will. If I mention a company or something, I'm just providing information. But when I say, what do you want? The way I kind of break it down, again, this is my own, just so you can have a linear, definition of the two and you kind of see what I'm talking about, is, do you want to own a trucking business or do you want to own a trucking company? Because, again, you can have $50 in your pocket, call up Prime, they will rent you a car, send you to 3 days of orientation, meet you with Abacus, who will give you your LLC. On Friday, lease you a truck, and you are in the trucking business. You will have your own LLC, and nobody can take that away from you. Wouldn't recommend you do it that way, but you could. Or, you could go down to Lone Mountain, referral code RWK, and you could put $4,500 down, $5,000 down, whatever you want, and buy your own truck. Take that truck, go to Landstar, go to F2F, go to PDP, go to any numerous places. Again, I'm not giving recommendations, I'm just saying you could, and you will own a trucking business. The reason or the delineation that I see for a motor carrier and why I got my own authority was because I wanted a trucking company. And what I mean by that is I'm building a company for my children. I'm building a company to bring people into, to grow, to have my own company. Having a company and having a business, I heard it broken down, and again, and kind of the way I'm just trying to give you things to think about, is a trucking business with a Landstar or Prime, anywhere else, any numerous places you could take a truck, is kind of like you walk into a Chick-fil-A tomorrow, and Chick-fil-A is awesome and it's wonderful, and a business owns that Chick-fil-A. But the business owner doesn't own Chick-fil-A. They have to follow Chick-fil-A's rules. They can't just decide, hey, you know what, tomorrow we're going to serve spaghetti. They are a business. They're in the restaurant business, but they don't own Chick-fil-A. I, with my motor carrier, own my company. If I want to start making spaghetti tomorrow, we'll make spaghetti tomorrow. So the first thing I guess you could say is kind of ownership is one of the major things you need to decide. Do you just want to have your own truck, bedazzle it how you want, run it how you want, go where you want, but you just want the one truck? Well, I would say, after the last 2 years as an owner operator, you don't need your own authority to do that. It's way more cost effective just to go somewhere else and have somebody else do it, because when you have ownership, you have ownership. Joining a drug program, running your reports, running your MBR, filing your IFTA, doing the insurance, running the registration like I had to do to get this truck set up. Nobody did that for me. There are a lot of companies where I could have gone and bought this truck, had my own trucking business with my LLC, taken to them, and they would have, like it when I went to PDP, my first truck. I bought it, I went there. They got my plates, they got my IFTA, they got my registration, they gave me my ELD. They did all that. Now, I still owned my truck. I was still my own business, but they had ownership because whoever has the DOT number on the side of the truck, that's who has the ownership. There are people who own trucks at Prime that have inward-facing cameras. Again, I'm just speaking from Prime because I know the experience. I'm not dogging them. I know friends at Landstar, right? That he does concerts. Well, you can do concerts, and then if the concert gets ended, you still want to run, you kind of got to go run what they say. There's the trucking business and the trucking company. I'm trying to build a future. I want a company. So ownership is definitely number one. Second thing that you need to think about, or maybe you want to think about, is what kind of headaches you want as far as cost. Because to get your own authority, you have to have insurance. Well, as a new authority with new insurance, your insurance is going to be through the roof. It is. It's just high. That's the way the insurance game works. You are going to have to work with new brokers. Let me phrase that. New brokers that work with you as a new authority. And that list stops at about 3. Now, I know people that have their own dedicated customers and they've gone to their authority and immediately went dedicated. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying in general. So you also have to file your own paperwork. Because again, you're starting your own company. So nobody's going to hold your hand and do your LLC for you. Nobody's going to hold your hand and file with the state and file with the FMCSA and get to the portal and the registration. There's a whole lot of moving pieces. As the owner of the company, I'm responsible for all of that. I can own a trucking business and have somebody else handle all of that for me. So that is way more effective. And when you get on a group plan for insurance, your insurance is going to be cheaper. They're probably going to get now... I hear people brag about their fuel discounts a lot. I get fantastic fuel discounts. I filled up 75 cents off this morning when I was in Memphis at $2.84 a gallon. I get great fuel discounts, but you got to know where to go to find that out. So the costs of starting this are very expensive. And if you don't have a good stockpile and you try to do this all on your own, it can add up very, very quickly. The third thing is when you might want to decide which way you want to go, as I will tell you this as far as being a motor carrier. You do not get credit for time served. This is not a prison sentence. You can go to, you can go to F2F. You can go to Ego. I wouldn't do that. You could go to Ego. You can drive for 7 years with Ego and have 4 of your own trucks, pay them all off, make a ton of money. Go out and get your authority, and you are a nobody. Because the only thing the insurance companies, the brokers, the customers care about is they look up your DOT number or your MC number, which are going away. And once they look that number up, that determines how they view you. And you want to go, you can get your own truck and go multiple places, but you don't get credit for that time served. Now, the other side is if you bite the bullet and you're able to do it and you go get your authority, after about a year, that guy who's driving for 10 years, who finally had enough of the man and goes and gets his own truck and comes in, even if you've been driving 3 years, even driving 10, that's not the way the trucking industry looks at it. They look at the age of your MC. I've heard of people that are able to cook their MC number. I don't know how to do that. Don't email me and ask, because I'm sure there are ways to do it. I went out and bought the truck, tried leasing on, said, no, this is stopping me from getting a business and I want my own company, and I went and did my own thing. So I don't have a lot of experience as far as how to cook your MC. I just went and ran. So that's number 2. So that's 1. The other thing is responsibility, and this is separate from ownership, and here's what I mean. If you remember back to my very, very first videos that you ever remember making, is when I had a reefer and I was on a load going down to Jacksonville, and I told you I had to get there. I couldn't be late for my appointment. The responsibility is all on you, and there are no excuses. You can run for these brokers for 6, 7 months, have a great reputation, and have one thing go wrong and lose that broker. And then what are you going to do then? What if you go and you run for a TQL because they'll work with you, the new authority, and you do something that's not even your fault, and you make them mad, and they blackball you, and you just lost one of your brokers? Now, I'm 2 years in. I'm working on, when this load I just did was with a brand new broker. I just called him. He sent me the thing. I filled it in. It was already filled in 90% because I've done it so many times. And 30 minutes later, I had a rate con. So you can get there, but you don't get credit for that It's all on you. The responsibility to make sure the load is done, to make sure the paperwork is done. You want to get paid? You want a factor? Well, you better make sure the paperwork is done or you don't get paid. Now, let's talk about some of the benefits, because there are benefits to having your own authority. And whether it's the ownership thing that I talked about, where you can do whatever you want, you can go wherever you want, you can haul whatever you want, and whenever that load is that you see that's posted, you can always negotiate it up. I try to, typically successful for a little bit because, broker's got a broker. But whatever that rate is, when I see that rate con, that is all mine. Now, I got a lot more bills because I have a motor carrier, but I don't share my money with nobody. I have that ownership piece where if all my stuff's paid, because again, like one of the reasons I went with the Lone Mountain truck, because I'm going to keep talking about it, is the monthly payment. As the owner-operator, as a motor carrier, you have the bills. The bills come once a month, basically all of my bills, whether it's my ELD, insurance, truck payment. And so I can divide that up. I can pick and choose. I can go like I do. My first week, first week of the month pays all my fixed expenses and the fuel. And the rest of the month that I run, that is all profit. I don't ever have to make the statement. And some of you guys know this because if you're leased on somewhere or you're leasing to somebody, they do some stuff weekly, whether even it's insurance or something, and your tolls, and it hits, and you start the week negative. I have never started a week negative since I have owned my company because all the money goes to me. And I don't know about you, but I pay myself first. So I don't ever not get paid. My bills don't ever not get paid, but I get the ownership of it. I get to choose how it's paid and what order it's paid and what load goes to what. So I've never had to mumble the words, well, I'm negative, honey, I got to leave. I'm not negative. So in conclusion, all of that, again, trying to keep this video somewhat short, I wanted to lay out some of the reasons that I think, now I can get to my real opinion, why I think a lot of people get their own motor carrier number and don't need it. Now, I'm not selling, there's multiple companies, multiple different ways. It's just like driving a truck. There's 57 different ways you can do it. But I think a lot of people have this goal of getting their MC numbers, and they would be like, I just want to have one truck, and I want to have one truck and go where I want to go and do what I want to do. Well, when I was at PDP, they took 15%, and 3% of that was factoring, so they took 12%. The rest was all mine, and the insurance was cheaper. But I'm trying to build a company, not just have a business. And there's a million companies like PDP. I'm just using them because I know them and I was very happy there. But those are some things that I tell people to really, really think about it. What do you want? Do you want the company? Do you want the business? You can have everything you want in business. You can have everything you want in a company. But if you're over here trying to start a company and all you really want is one truck, you're going to find this really expensive, and I don't know that it's worth the hassle. So I hope all of that made sense. I'm sure I will hear how stupid I am in the comments, but I'm just trying to give you guys information. I understand I'm not an entertainer. I'm an educator, so I like teaching. So hopefully you garnered some information from this. God bless. See you on the next one. Let's get rolling.